Still struggling with figuring out how to start the show, especially because we came back from summer break and now we're shooting this one on the wrong day at the wrong time. I woke up extra early to shoot this one because my vacation to California messed everything up. Welcome back.
Everybody enjoy. We get Sleepy Victor this week. I've got a 3-hour difference on you, so I am bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Wow, must be nice. You must know everything that's in the news. Please tell me what's in it.
Luxury California grocer Erewhon is bringing their infamous smoothies to the East Coast, now with an added layer of exclusivity. This new smoothie bar will be located inside Kith Ivy, a members-only wellness club touting a lofty membership fee of $36,000.
All right, Eater's Digest bingo players get to cross off there. Victor references the K-shaped recovery, again, square, because it's hard for me to not, predict that this sort of stuff is going to be intensifying. Like, obviously, this is targeting a customer base that isn't price sensitive. So my first reaction is that making fun of how silly it all is only strengthens the appeal of it. Because really the only exposure that I have to this story is like a Snacks Shot on Instagram who's like making fun of the $30 smoothies. And that's kind of what I expect the customer base wants out of this.
I don't know if I would say that they want people to make fun of it. That feels like a bit of a stretch to me. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, there's so much dissonance between how people live, people who are buying a $20 smoothie regularly or people who are paying $36,000 a year for a wellness club. There's just so much dissonance between the lifestyles of those two people that I don't think there's really any benefit for the rich people to be having their stuff shat all over.
The way that I see it is the smoothie is the actual real perk now all of a sudden, because it's you have Soho House and you have these exclusive hotels and clubs and things like that where you only flex that you're a member of it when you're in it. But now you get a little smoothie that you can walk around town with, and now everybody knows that you're part of Kith. What's it called? Kith Ivy.
Kith Ivy. I gotta say, every time I say that, I feel oh my god, wait, what's his name? I'm an idiot.
Mike Tyson?
Mike Tyson, yes, thank you. But something that's interesting about this is that, yes, the only way you can, purchase a smoothie in person is to be a member of this wellness club, but it's going to be available on DoorDash in the area, on, all third-party delivery apps. So you could order a $20 smoothie to your house. By the time, fees and tip, it's going to be a $40 smoothie, and it's going to be melted, and you could walk around with your melted $40 smoothie and pretend that you're a part of this, hoity-toity wellness club.
And increase the chances of finding a mate by at least 40% in New York. Or at least that's how I imagine New York. By the way, Kith is aware that you might sound like Mike Tyson. One of their more iconic collaborations, not to be a streetwear head on you, was with Mike Tyson, and it's a picture of him making two pigeons kiss, and it says Kith underneath.
Now Kith. That's awesome. At least they're self-aware.
Right. And speaking of self-aware, I think Erewhon has, at least to a degree, become sort of like a tongue-in-cheek flex, at least on the West Coast. So, moving it to a global hub like New York City would have to contend with that. You can't offer just the same thing on both coasts, or it effectively cheapens the brand. And so I think that by having it tied to an expensive membership, it gives the LA people something to be oh, that's so silly. Look at all those East Coasters do their thing about. And then it gives New Yorkers the status symbol that, unlike fancy shoes or credit cards that get flashed every once in a while, the big bright blue or pink cup that can be flaunted in the open for an hour while walking down the street.
To continue on the subject of self-awareness, I did find a Reddit thread of basically people who like the Kith brand as a streetwear company, and I did see a lot of feedback from people about how this feels like a very weird stretch for the brand. A lot of people seem to think that they're trying to one-up a brand that we have discussed on the show before, Amélie d'Or. And I do see some similarities there with the whole Amélie d'Or Cafe and them trying to open this tonic bar here. I do think it's interesting that we are seeing these streetwear brands kind of pivoting towards food and drink and wellness.
I thought that you were going to say Supreme, because nothing's really taken the throne of Supreme, where they were selling $200 bricks with the Supreme logo on it. But I don't know. I imagine that New York City real estate has to be too expensive to just open a grocery store like Erewhon. So they needed a partner in the hype industry to do something like this. And the city's idea of like a luxury apartment is still very much closet sized in most of America. And so having a tiny smoothie bar is about as close as you can get to just having a grocery store pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah, I do think in terms of like real estate that Erewhon would be a hard thing to just shove right into New York City, unless maybe you had like a scaled down version of it, like an Erewhon bodega where you can go and get like a gluten-free, seed oil-free bacon, egg, and cheese with white truffle ketchup or something like that. I could see that. I don't want to say maybe taking off, but I could see that maybe doing a little bit better because there's almost that like layer of sort of self-aware irony in there.
The bodega cat is like a small tiger.
Exactly. Or like one of those like $50,000 Savannah cats or something like that.
I love this idea. This is the best idea you've ever come up with on the show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think that something like that would be a much more interesting thing to see Erewhon try to do. I get that this is like, it has people talking, in terms of a company like Erewhon, like all press is good press at this point, I think.
Well, I will end my analysis of this by saying that the pro-capitalist way of putting this strategy is that the ultra wealthy is the fastest growing demographic in the world right now. And wouldn't you much rather cater to the price insensitive than a base who monitors their spending? The doomer way of looking at it, which is what comes natural to me, is that the ultra wealthy is the fastest growing demographic in the world because wealth inequality keeps intensifying, and we who can't afford this sort of stuff can cry sour grapes as much as we want. But I imagine that that's exactly what the buyer of a $30 smoothie wants. Like, yes, I know that it's too expensive, but the thing is, I'm filthy rich, so it means nothing to me. And I guess the closest that people like us get to something like that is like bottle service in a club or buying something with Klarna, where it's like, yes, I know it's a $15 bottle of vodka and I'm paying $300 for it. Like, the point is to do something that you shouldn't in order to flex.
Kraft-Heinz, formed in a 2015 landmark merger, became one of the largest food manufacturers in the world. Now, the company has decided to split back into two separate entities with distinct portfolios in hopes of simplifying operations and boosting shareholder value.
I might be misremembering this. Wasn't this like a Warren Buffett idea to bring them together? Like, he invested in them, brought them together, and now they're splitting apart, and this is like the biggest black stain on his investment portfolio of all time.
Basically, I've seen a lot about that. There have been like statements publicly coming from him that say like, oh, admittedly, this was not a brilliant idea. And he has come out like criticizing the high cost and very rushed timeline of the split. With someone like Warren Buffett, though, in the context of everything, this is really not affecting him all that much.
I guess the last big one of these that we covered was Kellogg splitting apart from Kellanova. I don't remember what the details were. I think it was like we're putting cereals in one box and then snacks in the other. And I imagine that this might become a bigger trend that we see more of, especially for brands that are impacted by rising GLP-1 use. But my assessment, based on zero data and like 100% speculation, is that the yuppie brands that make stuff like celebrity mayonnaises and single origin chili crisps or prebiotic sodas have officially won. It seems like the newish wave of like catering to the hardcore lovers of very specific things is the way to go. And we've covered this since the show started. And making like a bigger and bigger brand that includes everything from mustard to cookies is no longer the winning strategy, where it used to be like, I don't know, in the 50s, where it's just like, let's become as big as we can. That way we can advertise everything in one TV commercial. Now it's like, let's make a really specific competitor to Velveeta that's like single origin organic, and we can just target the heck out of like 50,000 very specific people on Instagram ads and just win them over so that they cover their Christmas tree in our brand of orange colored ornaments.
The thing that I think about this that is different from what you're saying there is that the way that they are splitting this up is kind of different. One of these, they don't have official names yet, but they do have tentative names. We have Global Taste Elevation Company, which is going to be focusing mainly on like sauces, spreads, condiments, and things like that, specifically in the context of like global brands, whereas the other half is going to be called North American Grocery Company, and it's going to be more focused on like regional staples, specifically in the US and Canada. But a lot of existing like Kraft and Heinz products are still going to be produced and distributed by both, which I think is interesting. I saw something about like Kraft mac and cheese being distributed by both of them, and I would be interested to know more about how those decisions are made as to what section it's going to and how it's like distributed.
Again, this is total speculation. I would assume, guess, predict that the way that they delineate between one company or the other is that all of the like well-known, beloved Oscar Mayer Lunchable type foods are going to go in one bucket, and all of the potential high growth items are going to go in the other bucket. That way they can have like the one that makes headlines for its ripping stock price and the other one that's just sort of like a value stock that pays dividends. From an investor perspective, if I just ignore the customer sentiment that I was talking about earlier, I heard that a really compelling argument that the penalty comes from the sentiment that investors like might not want big corporations diversifying too much. Like you're saying, some people might be saying Kraft and Heinz being together, it diversifies their portfolio too much. Like investors want to be able to diversify on their own into the specific categories that they want. Google would be my own best personal example. Like I'm not invested in Alphabet as a single stock outside of my index fund exposure, even though I think that YouTube is the most important and undervalued media company in the market because Google does so much other stuff. And so to buy Alphabet stock is to buy into their phones business and their ads business and their AI exposure. So, if you really believe that like Lunchables is a brand that will benefit from the exposure and arguably failed launch of Lunchly, you might want to make a sizable investment into Lunchables, but then not know enough about ketchup or Velveeta to feel comfortable investing in Kraft Heinz, and thus splitting up a big corporation or conglomerate makes it more appealing to investors like that.
Thank goodness I'm doing this show with you because I don't know anything about stocks or investment.
And thank goodness that's all I have to say about the story, so nobody can push back and prove that I don't know that much either.
A variety of New York City restaurants have caught flack recently for falsifying and hiding their low health inspection ratings to conceal issues from customers. Even renowned restaurant Carbone has been found guilty of this in the last month, leading diners to question what qualifies as a deal breaker for their favorite spots.
One thing that I think about a lot as technically a business owner / self-employed person is that I do wish that everybody could get a shot at running their own money-making apparatus, if not just to see how you would handle the hundreds of opportunities for corruption and line blurring that get served to you on a silver platter with nobody looking. Imagine that you, Willow, are a restaurateur, and then you got slapped with a B, but you thought that grade was BS because they caught you on a bad day, and the offenses were like bureaucratic red tape type offenses, and the diners were coming in an hour, and you've given the sheet of paper that says B on it, but nobody's going to notice if you wait a day to put it up. Like, would you hurry to put that sheet of paper up?
You know, this is a hard one for me to kind of reckon with, because I do understand that things happen. You have bad days. You know, a lot of times these harsh marks don't have like the worst things underneath them. You know, they might be like very common issues, especially in a place like New York City, like pest issues popping up now and again. But I will say, not that I have worked anywhere that requires like by town to have their health inspection ratings displayed. But I do know that you can have a really hard day and still be on top of things. You know, I have a distinct memory, God, it was probably 8-9 years ago at this point, at a job that I worked previously. It was 4th of July weekend, absolutely crazy, line out the door, down the street. It was like a counter service burger type place. And we had a surprise health inspection that weekend, 4th of July weekend. It was a nightmare. And my boss handled it absolutely in stride. He basically took the health inspector by the hand, escorted them around the building, being like, look, see, accurate. Look, see, accurate. And we had a glowing health inspection. It is absolutely possible to run a clean, appropriately temped restaurant, even on your hardest days. So while I do want to have some leniency for like the shit happens of it all, for some of these restaurants, and as like trendy and notable as they are, I would expect better from them.
Yeah, I don't even want leniency. I think obviously there's a right thing to do, both morally and legally, and that is to display the grade that you've been given. But I do think, I do fantasize about this world in which everybody gets to be a little business owner for a day, because wouldn't it be neat if you and everyone you know actually had to test themselves on what they would do? Do you remember that show, What Would You Do, with John Quinones? I guess that's the same thought behind that entire show.
I don't think I know that.
Oh, it's not worth looking up, but anybody who does know, they're like, yes, I get it, exactly. I guess I honestly would have expected there to be harsher penalties for something like this, for not displaying your grade or for falsely putting up a sign that says grade to come, even though you got it.
Yeah, that was kind of my biggest takeaway from this, is that it doesn't seem like anything happens other than, like, you know, a slap on the wrist. I think the biggest punishment of all of this is these articles that are coming out. You know, I'm seeing in the articles that they're like interviewing people on the street in front of these restaurants, being like, did you know? And them being like, oh God, no, I didn't. That's kind of wild. My favorite part of that was when they interviewed somebody at the bar and they were like, I don't care, I just come here to drink alcohol.
I guess it's not a winning strategy to either depend on the better angels of business owners to do the right thing, nor the expediency of local governments to increase punishments. But the first thing that comes to mind is like some kind of signage that has to go up if you get caught doing this sort of thing. Like, your next 3 grades get printed on fuchsia paper instead of white. That way, if you have a fuchsia A, it's like, what happened there over the past couple of months?
I think that that's a really great way of handling that. You know, it's still very straightforward, but it's like a red flag.
Yeah, a fuchsia flag, if you will.
Something that I do think is interesting that I would want to touch on here, in terms of these ratings, are you eating at a B health inspected spot?
If by the time I get to a restaurant, I will see the B, it's like, I've already made the reservation, I've already gotten an Annie, I'm going to figure it out. I just will not be ordering, say, the oysters, and then probably won't be making another reservation again. So, you know, I'll get the less risky foods, but not much you can do.
I have a couple interesting new products for you this week. Arizona and Mike's Hot Honey have collabed for 3 new spicy beverages. We have Slacka, a different kind of functional beverage using 5-HTP and paraxanthine. And Starbucks protein lattes and protein cold foam. More protein coming out at the end of September.
Did you Google how to pronounce paraxanthine first, or you just know that off the top of the dome?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I know it. I'm just making an educated guess based on the pronunciation of other similar looking words.
Very good. I'm always astonished at your ability to confidently pronounce things in the heat of the moment. I
Fake it till you make it, baby.
I don't know anything about 5-HTP or paraxanthine, so all I can say is, like, good work. I hope somebody likes it, I guess.
I do know a little bit about 5-HTP. It is a supplement that I used to take a couple of years ago. It's 5-hydroxytryptophan is what it stands for. And it assists your body in the production of serotonin. And that's something that I think that they are not talking about enough on this website, because a product like this would be dangerous for someone to drink that is on SSRI medication. Like I take 100 milligrams of Zoloft every day, represent. And something like this, if I were to drink it on a regular basis, or even if, you know, some people are very sensitive, it can really mess your stuff up. You know, it can cause serotonin syndrome. And the paraxanthine, I don't know too much about, except that it is basically a converted form of caffeine that is, in some ways, I guess, easier on your body to process and a little bit less intense and longer lasting.
Okay, you won't be drinking that, but will you be drinking the protein latte and protein cold foam?
I'm not a big Starbucks girly. I can't say I would be going out of my way for it. And as much as we love to, like, trash talk all of these new protein products on the show, I think of all things, this is like one of the more reasonable ones. You know, I'm sure I'm not the only person out there drinking their breakfast pretty frequently. So, like, getting a coffee on the go that has, you know, however much, you know, 8, 10, 12 grams of protein, it's better than just drinking a coffee on an empty stomach, right?
I guess, but then the question is, like, how much of that is just coming from the fact that it's milk? Like, I after switching to the Fairlife milk, where there's more protein and less sugar just because of the way that it's filtered, it's like, you know, you can get most of the way to a Fairlife Core Power Shake just by drinking a glass of Fairlife regular milk. The problem with that is adults really don't tend to drink a glass of milk. The solution to that is adults drink a huge glass of milk every morning when they drink an iced latte that's like 90% milk and a shot of espresso. So I'm not an iced latte drinker, but I imagine I could get most of the way there just by like making a regular latte with Fairlife milk. And I wonder if that's what this is, or if it's more of like the isolated whey protein type thing that we've seen so many times before.
It is both. It is going to be 2% milk and whey protein. One of the things that I think is weird, though, is the addition of the protein cold foam. Like, anytime you get a drink with cold foam on it, 30% of that cold foam just sticks to the side of the cup as you drink it. So it feels like, you're paying however much to just not even really consume a lot of that protein.
The hype for cold foam started 5 years ago, and I remember being like, what is the deal with this? It's just like soft whipped cream. Why is everybody making a new name for it? And I finally saw a TikTok of somebody being like, you guys, I just figured out how to make cold foam at home, and it's just like soft whipped cream. I was like, okay, good. I avoided this for long enough to see it come full circle. But it's like, I've seen International Delight make cold foam dispensers. I don't know if you've seen those. Those are
it's
cool,
just deflated whipped cream.
Right. Okay, good. I'm glad that I wasn't wrong nor crazy on that one. The Arizona and Mike's Hot Honey collab is actually pretty surprising because I see a lot of their collabs as being like low rent or budget, and I don't say that like in a derogatory way. It's just like they are a $1.50 beverage, and so I wouldn't expect them to do such a high-profile collab with a yuppie brand like Mike's Hot Honey. So I'm glad that they were able to make it work, and that's actually pretty surprising.
Yeah, it especially following. I think it was last
Raspberry?
month. Yes, that's exactly where I was going. Unfortunately, it is nice to see them do something a little bit more digestible after that. Even if I was an Arizona drinker, I don't know that I'd want that big cartoon Rizzler face looking back at me the whole time. But I do think that this is a little bit odd, considering I think most of the people that are drinking Arizona iced teas are probably like 12 to 15 years old, I think.
No.
Really?
No.
That's when I was drinking them.
Anybody who like gets a Polar Pop or like a 7-Eleven insulated cup beverage that wants to feel a little bit healthier, not saying that it is healthier, I'm just telling you the type of like ethos that goes through somebody's mind when they buy something like this. Because I was, often the type of person as a child who would buy like a Naked juice because it's the healthy choice, even though it's like 100 grams of sugar and not healthy at all.
At least there's like some fiber in the Naked juice. Like there's not much going on for you in the Arizona beverages.
Yeah, but it's tea, bro. It's good for the mind.
Well, 2 out of 3 of these aren't even tea. One of them is their Mucho mango fruit juice cocktail, and one of them is their like watermelon fruit juice cocktail. Those are both flavors that would work well with the hot honey flavor. The green tea one throws me off a little bit. Like, I get the honey in the green tea. I think adding something spicy in there almost feels like a sweetened version of a cleanse beverage. Like a green tea, honey, and cayenne pepper sounds like something you drink to clean yourself out.
I hope that they do something with that iconic jade colored, whatever. Is it like a ginseng plant with all the flowers on it? I hope they do something where it's like that, but with chili peppers on the vines instead. I almost forgot. I do need to mention another one of the products in my PR packages that was sent to me that I don't have in front of me, but I did finally try the Molly Boz mayo called AO, and it's good. It's good. The problem is I have no idea how much it costs. So if it's like $15 a bottle, that's the thing that I'm supposed to get mad about. But the problem with getting a bunch of stuff for free is you're just like, wow, this is awesome. And then you post it online and people are like, what are you buying? What kind of mayonnaise are you buying? But they make a mayonnaise with chopped up giardiniera in it, and they call it giardineo. And it is fabulous. It is a perfect sandwich spread. It is something that you would make on your own, but does save you a step, especially in making just like a little snack or a little sandwich. So I think they need to like get away from this, like, we're competing with Dukes in the arena of plain mayonnaise, and they just need to keep doing these infusions, like the miso mayo, the Dijonnaise, the giardineo, the pickle mayo, and that's exactly where they're going to find success.
I actually saw recently that Kraft is dipping their toes into the, like, AO adjacent sort of flavors. They are coming out with a new line of, like, squeezable, like, mayonnaise sandwich spreads. There is a pickle one, I know for sure. The rest I'm not as familiar with, but it very much did feel like it was coming off the tails of the AO.
Well, that's the real problem with making these sort of products is you can't like copyright the flavor combination, and so you're always at risk of just somebody nipping at your heels and making it for cheaper and for more people.
Yeah, unless they're about to call it Giardineo, then I don't really think that there's much to be done there.
Do you have a Q&A segment for us this week again?
I do. This week we have a submission from Zeke. Do you tip in the following scenarios? And if so, how much? 1, a cafe where you buy a latte and a pastry. 2, a counter service barbecue restaurant where you go down the line saying how much of each item you want. 3, a food truck where they shout your name to come pick up your food. And 4, a hot dog vendor outside of a concert venue. Now, before we dive into this, I think the easiest way to start this off is, what is your baseline tipping at a regular sit-down restaurant? Perfectly good service, nothing special, nothing wrong. What are you tipping?
Oh, I don't know. I used to do the whole, like, do tax times 2, but that was when Texas tax was a thing, and now that I live in Arizona, I don't really know what the math behind all that is. I legitimately don't know the answer to this. I don't know. I think I'll just say, like, tax.
You're gonna get eaten alive for this one.
I still think
you don't know how much you tip at a restaurant?
No, I basically do, like, whatever is convenient to make a flat number. So, like, if you're my waitress and you get me a bill that's like $15.05, that's great. You're getting basically another $1 of tip. You know what I'm saying? Because I always round it up to a flat number. And that's the only amount of math that I do in my regular day-to-day life, is how do I get this 2 decimal digit to equal 100? So I don't know. I
think you are drastically overthinking this.
Oh, yeah, all the time. That's like my whole thing. And like, so, you know, I've heard people make really pithy, smart rules for themselves. Like, I don't tip at places where I order standing up. I guess for me, I tip anytime I am making their job extra difficult, which is almost all the time, because I'm like so bad at traversing the modern world that I'm just like showing up at the wrong part of the counter or showing up at the wrong line, like the pickup line or something, or asking questions like, what is that? Can you explain to me what that is? So most of the time I'm throwing in an extra couple of dollars, even if I'm standing up, because like I made this person explain something that a normal person should know already.
I think you have a good point there, but it does feel like you're maybe beating around the bush a little bit. I know that you have a pretty large audience. You know, maybe you don't want to come out and say how much you're tipping. You don't want people to get mad at you.
I'll tell you, the last one was like 2 days ago. I went to a cafe, and it's been a really long time since I've ordered coffee out. So I was just like, hey, what is a black velvet latte? She's like, oh, it's like our version of a Frappuccino. Okay. So everything else on the menu in that section is probably like blended cold drinks, right? She's like, yeah, very much. Like our banana icy latte, yeah, that's a blended cold drink. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get a regular cappuccino. That was like $4. I got a latte for Brie, that was also $4, and then I tipped like $1.50 on top of that. So do whatever math equals to that, and that's how much I tipped. But it's like I don't have a standard number because I leave the house so infrequently.
I guess that's fair. If you're at home, you don't have to think about it too much. I think in most situations I would categorize myself as an over tipper. That's just because I've worked in the industry, I've made tips, I know what it's like. But also, you know, I have the understanding of like, you know, when people are making an appropriate hourly wage versus when people are making like servers' wages and things like that. I do have concrete answers for almost all of these scenarios, though. If I'm in a cafe buying a latte and a pastry, I tip $1 for every drink that I am buying. If I am buying a latte for myself and somebody else, I'm tipping $2. If I'm getting like drip coffee, I am going to give whatever like change is left. That's if I'm paying cash. If I'm paying digitally, I'm probably just going to leave $1 as well. If I am at a counter service restaurant where people are, you know, being paid full wages, there's no service, depending on how much I spend, maybe like $3 to $5 at the end. Food truck, same situation. A couple bucks. Hot dog vendor outside a concert venue, maybe $1, maybe nothing.
Wow, I think I would probably be the opposite, like a food truck, because I know they're going to just be like, order for Willow. I'm just like, I don't like being here. I don't want to give you the tip. And so the hot dog vendor, I'm like, okay, hustle king, like keep it up. Yeah, a lot of times I feel like I either through my ineptitude or charming charisma, people are like giving me an experience that breaks away from their typical like, okay, and for you, I'll be right back. And so, we went to a sushi dinner for Bree's birthday the other day, and it was like, somebody brought a sushi thing to our table that had the torch all over it, and I was like, do you guys use like a different type of fuel or something? Because I usually hate the torched taste of like having the butane fire over the fish, but here it tastes really good. He's like, no, not really. Maybe it's like the vaporized fat. It's such a high fat fish. Plus we crosshatch it, so it might express more of that flavor. I'm like, okay, this guy's like giving me way more attention and care than he needs to. So those sorts of interactions where I am probably the odd one out, and I know that they're not required to do something like that. Those are the ones that get me to tip extra.
I think that is a very reasonable approach for that. If you are getting additional help, additional service, like you should leave an additional tip, or if you're just having exceptional service. I will say it's very, very rare that I would deliberately tip less than expected. It would have to be a very, very bad experience for me to be like leaving a bad tip or no tip somewhere. I can't even think of any instances.
I could, even though it doesn't. It's sort of like when you get a test that's graded on a curve and everybody's like, guys, let's all aim to get 0 on the test so that we all get 100 graded on a curve. It's like, I understand the sentiment for people who are just like, tipping culture is getting out of control, and the more that you guys do it, the worse it's going to get. So please stop tipping at places where you stand up. I understand that sentiment too. So I'm not like a hater of anybody's strategy.
I don't know. I don't like the not tipping at places where you stand up. Like, tip your damn barista people. Like, these people... They need it more than you. If you can go out and buy an $8 coffee, you can afford to tip the barista $1.
The person who's likely to argue with you about that is going to say it should be the onus of the employer to pay them and not you. And all we're doing is like fattening up the pockets of the owner who's not even involved in the exchange. But this is a debate that's been going on at least since Pulp Fiction came out, because I finally saw that movie and then saw that they were having the debate. So it's never going to end until...
That's not the right movie. You're thinking of Reservoir Dogs.
Yes, that's the one.
Not to be like that.
Shoot. Well, I've been caught in a flub, and that's my cue to end the show. Goodbye, everybody.
Have a good weekend there. Oh, wait, before we go, if you liked our little... Q&A segment at the end, if you'd like to submit something yourself, you can reach out to me at willow@internetshaquille.com. Give me your hot food takes, your weird questions. Give me the weird stuff. Come on.
Don't ask anything that'll get me in trouble. I don't want anybody to get mad at me for my tipping strategy. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Eater's Digest is published every Friday on YouTube, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. You can also get a text-based version delivered to your email every Friday at patreon.com/Shaq.